A to the K.
A to the K.
A to the K.
Coming up tonight on the Ringside Report. Jon Moxley headed back to WWE.
Gable Steveson spoils the date of his WWE debut.
WrestleMania Night 1 main event will not be a match.
Shelton Benjamin shoots down WWE release rumours.
Could Bret the Hitman Hart be headed to AEW?
Big E reveals he narrowly escaped a stroke, paralysis, or even death.
Brandi Rhodes set to bring Shot of Brandi YouTube show to TV.
Paige VanZant spoke with WWE before choosing AEW.
And lastly, Matt Cardona open to a WWE return. Anthony, when's all that coming up?
It's all coming up right fucking now.
Yes, it is. Let's kick things off with a bit of a speculative one, perhaps. So,
And I kind of hope it's not true because I like what they're doing currently.
yes, I can't imagine it's true, but we've got to cover it because it's made the news, made this news. So the one and only Paul Heyman posted a picture the other day of a Roman Reigns action figure standing tall over a Brock Lesnar figure with the caption WrestleMania spoiler. However, the eagle-eyed amongst us noticed in the corner of that picture was none other than a Jon Moxley action figure. And thus, the rumours began that Moxley may be headed back to WWE. But adding fuel to the fire, Raja.com have stated that Moxley's contract is actually due up this year, but that he also has an opt-out clause in the contract which would allow him to leave at any time. So, could this be the biggest Mania shock of all? Would Jon Moxley, even though he's right in the middle of a thing with William Regal and Bryan Danielson right now, could he be heading back to WWE, Anthony?
Well, I hope not. Right, the perfect time for him to head back to WWE would have been that 20 minutes worth of just like Roman just deciding like, should I beat up Seth? Shouldn't I? I don't know. Let's keep going back and forward, and everyone was expecting something because we were just lingering on it for fucking ages.
Yeah.
That was when we should have had Moxley come back. It was almost like it was in, like that. That was what they were writing, and he just never turned up. So, yeah, for me, I'm like, if the story fits, like right now, I'm really enjoying what he's doing in AEW, and I don't see where he would fit into the story in WWE at the moment. You know, if there was a natural lull between the two, then because I like all wrestling, I'm not bothered if people jump ship, unless it's Cody Rhodes. That's throw it in there. But I don't know, for me, just because like I've just been praising the whole Regal, Danielson, Moxley stuff, I'd be kind of gutted if he went at this point.
Yeah, it wouldn't. I mean, it just doesn't make any sense at all, does it? For this to happen now, like,
This is bullshit. Why are we even talking?
Well, I mean, to be fair, yeah, but like it seems to have gained a lot of traction. I think of the fact that Raja kind of weighed in, saying, "Well, his contract is up this year, and he could get it. You know, he's even got a clause that lets him get out whenever." People are just being like, "Ooh," but to your point, if they were going to do it, you would do it. Well, yeah, but if you were going to do it, you would have done it when it was Roman versus Seth. Like that was the perfect time to bring him back, but they didn't, and yeah, I can't see this having any legs, to be fair, at least in the immediate future. Who knows down the line? You know, you never say never in wrestling, do you? Cody Rhodes himself is the one going, I can never go back there, and then rumours say he's imminently due back there. So, yeah, I don't know. I can't see it, but I've been wrong before. Damn it, I'll be wrong again.
Yeah. That's as likely as Matt Cardona coming back.
Or will he? So who knows, basically. But
Who knows?
Interesting tease, nonetheless, from Mr. Heyman.
Oh yeah, we have to report these things, you know. Well, I sincerely hope it's not true.
Same.
So, Carl, Gable Steveson.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, you heard of him?
I've heard of him.
Yeah, cool. So, obviously, we've been expecting him to turn up in WWE for some time. It's been developing, if you will. Quite recently, he may have spoiled something that he shouldn't have spoiled, Carl. So, basically, quite recently, he's become a two-time NCAA Wrestling Heavyweight Champion. and in response tweeted, "Dear Wrestling, thank you," which is nice. It was essentially him, bidding farewell to amateur wrestling as Wrestling Inc. reported it, because I've basically quoted it word for word. But what he also did, Carl, around that same time was put, "Also, I'll be at #WrestleMania. It's time," which was quickly deleted. Naturally, not quick enough, because people caught it, screenshotted it, and then started spreading it around. So it may be, and it seems very likely, that this was meant to be a surprise, and he's spoiled the fuck out of it. Unfortunately for him. So will we see good old Gabe at WrestleMania 38, Carl?
I mean, if we do, where would we see him? I guess is the question. Like, is he going to get involved in something? Like, apparently he's got to head down to the Performance Center and actually learn how to do professional wrestling, right? So, is he just going to be sat there in the audience?
Maybe he deleted it because that's it. He might have just meant that he's got tickets to watch it, and everyone's took it the wrong way. So he's like, "I best delete that." Actually,
yeah, maybe it's just something as simple as that. But yeah, I don't know. I'm trying to think where he could get involved in terms of actually in one of the matches or segments or something, and I'm not too sure. Maybe they've just got him on standby in case they can't sign Cody Rhodes, and therefore Seth Rollins is fighting.
Imagine
fighting Gable Steveson on his
volatile Twitter to be if Seth storms out of Mania demanding a match with somebody and it's Gable Steveson. No offense, but imagine how volatile Twitter would be.
Yeah,
everybody wants it to be Cody for some reason.
Wouldn't be the best of places, but no, I think clearly he's now retired from amateur wrestling. Obviously, 2-time NCAA champ, as well as a host of other things as well. So WWE are heavily invested in him. I know they're making a lot of comparisons with the likes of Kurt and Brock and people like that. So who knows? His future could be very bright there. He's certainly got the look. He's certainly got the athletic background. So
Brock's going to win, and Gabe's going to come out and face him.
Imagine that. That'd be one hell of a way to insert yourself into the main event scene from nowhere, wouldn't it?
Wouldn't be the first time.
I mean, we'll cover this when we get to the predictions, but I don't even think Brock's winning, to be fair.
Whatever.
We'll see.
How can Cowboy Brock not win it all?
Cowboy
He's
Brock.
Cowboy.
I love it.
Actually, I feel like he should have Kid Rock's Cowboy as his entrance theme now,
Actually, yeah, that would work quite nicely for him, to be fair. But yeah, so Gable Steveson, who knows? Will he be at Mania? Is he just going to be there as a fan? Is he going to be involved in some capacity? Who knows? But he tweeted about it and deleted it. So
Gabe versus Seth, you hear it here first.
Make of that what you will. So speaking of WrestleMania, speaking of the happenings at Mania, and also speaking of Reddit again, because I like Reddit.
Reddit again. I love Reddit, except when you try and participate and they're like, "Go fuck yourself." You're like, okay.
Yeah, it's one minor drawback. It's a more of it's a spectator sport, I find.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah, be prepared to be fucking downvoted to oblivion if you actually say anything. But
you can't silence me.
That being said, there is a Reddit user who is a somewhat of an in the know, who goes by the name Kermit125. So this person has predicted some things, way in advance. The likes of Sharmell being inducted into the Hall of Fame. Also, basically said that Cody is definitely going to be Seth's opponent at Mania a few weeks ago. So let's see whether that comes true. But this particular account has actually reported something very fascinating, Anthony. So, night 1 of WrestleMania Saturday, if you will. The main event is apparently going to be Kevin Owens and Stone Cold, the Kevin Owens Show segment. So no women's title match, no Charlotte Ronda, no Becky.
Interesting
Bianca.
To close the show on something that is likely not a match as well.
Yeah, closing with a talk show segment that may end up in a scuffle, if all is to be believed. So, what does that mean? I guess it opens a couple of different kind of questions. Do we think that it is going to be more than a Kevin Owens show? It's actually going to lead to some kind of match or some kind of long, fight of some kind? Or
Cody Rhodes is going to turn up.
Maybe. Or
I mean, that's what we want, isn't it? We want him to just randomly turn up and have no relevance to what's going on. That's what the fans want, right?
Well, yeah, whether it's here, Seth, just randomly turning up anywhere and insert themselves into matches. Yeah, makes sense. But a bit of a strange, thought. Maybe the Kevin Owens show that takes place on night one is actually going to set up a match that takes place on night two between the pair. Maybe at the Kevin Owens show, Owens does get the better of Austin, and Austin goes, "You know what, you son of a bitch, I'm going to get in the ring for a match with you tomorrow." And it's like, what?
Rocked up in a beer truck just because.
Like, that could be quite a cliffhanger to Mania, but yeah, interesting that a segment is down to
And actually,
close the show.
Sonya and Adam Pearce will be there to go, well, you know what, we've got nothing going on tomorrow, so sure.
Of course. Main events,
You're
yeah.
so bitter right now.
I think that's open. So, yeah. What do you make, though? What do you make of this? Do you think, is it the right call to have Stone Cold and Kevin Owens main event? Do we think it is going to mean more? Is it just going to be
I'm really unsure because, like, based on what we know that they've called it, I mean, they haven't really called it a KO show, have they? Correct me if I'm wrong. Like, Austin said he'll right, okay. I remember Austin saying he'll meet him for whatever, whether he wanted to be a match, a KO show, whatever.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, to be fair, because they were fighting over who hosted it, so yeah. But it's got to be more than KO. You can't close the night out on a KO show. I'd be disappointed if that's the case. Is all I'd say.
Yeah, if you have, like, I don't know, Charlotte versus Ronda, which I think a lot of people thought was originally going to main event the show. If that happens and then it's the Kevin Owens show where Austin comes out and stuns him, and that's the end of the thing, it'd be a bit like, oh, okay. So,
nice.
Yeah.
Yeah. So a bit of an unusual placement if it is just going to be a segment, but we'll wait and see. We'll wait and see. A night full of surprises, you might say.
Indeed.
Like, I don't know, Cody Rhodes turning up. I'll keep harping on.
So that's what you do best.
That's what I do. Right, so Carl, next one. Just in case you're unsure, Shelton Benjamin has not been released from WWE and is not leaving WWE. You hear me? Why am I telling you this? Well, because basically fans on social media, I don't know if you've seen it recently, have been sort of spreading that rumour or report, if you will, around that he'd been released. So Shelton has had to felt the need to take to Twitter. So this is how I suppose noticeable this rumour was getting. And he actually said that I've not been released from WWE. I obviously don't know where this false report started. As a little joke to his friend, he's put in brackets, probably me or him. But for those that cared, thank you. But at this time, your concerns are premature. So it seems Shelton isn't going anywhere if you thought he was.
Interesting. I mean, it'd be the worst thing ever if the fans were right and he's like, no, I'm good, I'm still there. And then suddenly his phone rings and it's John Laurinaitis. And he's like, oh, no.
No, Johnny.
How did they know before me? My trash bag ended up at their house. That makes sense now. But yeah, bit of a strange one that he's obviously, like, to his point, where did the rumours start? I know he's not been, used frequently in, like, the hair business. Not really much of a thing, or are they? Who knows?
It's a shame. They could be an awesome thing, but let's not do that. Apparently.
No, indeed. So yeah, a bit of a shame that he's had to obviously, correct people, because it's obviously not the nicest thing in the world to be like, what? People are thinking I'm getting fired? That's not good. But yeah, he should be used more, really, Shelton. Remember when he came back and it was like, oh wow, Shelton Benjamin's back, and it's just he did nothing with him again. Kind of what they did with John Morrison. But hey ho.
Hey, you remember when they had John Morrison?
Remember that? It's mad that. So yeah, Shelton Benjamin still with WWE for now. So the next one, I feel like all mine are just pure speculative bullshit this week, but we'll go with it. So, Bret the Hitman Hart, could he be headed to AEW? Now, earlier this month, FTR teased that Bret could potentially be their new manager. So as we know, they fired Tully Blanchard and then went on to tweet at Bret asking him whether he was free. Things seem to intensify even further when the Young Bucks stated it doesn't matter if their new manager is the best there is. Obviously, referencing Bret the Hitman Hart, best there is, best there was, best there ever will be catchphrase. But now fans have jumped on it even more because Bret posted a picture with one of the hockey players for the Calgary Flames, and many people just kind of blown away by what shape he's in and how good he looks, and that's kind of just fanned the Flames even more around. Well, maybe he's in such good shape because he's going to be headed to AEW in some kind of manager capacity. But
I mean, we saw him quite recently. He looked pretty good.
He did look pretty good. Talkative chap. Shame really. I wish I could have talked his ear off all day. But time is money.
Is money.
So yeah, but yeah, he obviously looked in very good shape when we saw him, and I would love him to be in AEW, whether it's in a manager capacity, whatever. I think obviously many know him as Bret the Hitman Hart, multi-time world champion, intercontinental champion, but don't forget him and Anvil were a fantastic tag team for many, many years. So he knows tag team wrestling. Could certainly play a part as a manager there. And I just love Bret Hart. So if he was to do something in AEW, that'd be great. Obviously, the Owen Hart Cup's coming up as well. So
he has your heart, doesn't he?
He does. He's got he's already got an affinity with AEW. He was presented the title and stuff like that for them.
Yeah, I think people quite easily forget that, but yeah, he presented the title. Yeah.
Exactly. So I imagine if his his schedule allows it and it's something he wants to do, then there would definitely be a place there for him. And obviously FTR are huge fans of him. So yeah,
naturally, because they know good wrestlers.
I mean, I think I might have mentioned it on the show the other week, but did you hear the thing that the story that Dax shared on the Renee Paquette Sessions podcast? It's not Oral Sessions anymore.
As much as I followed the podcast, I haven't actually heard that one yet.
Well, basically, he was talking about Shawn Michaels, where obviously in the Performance Centre, Shawn was one of the trainers there, and Dax had basically been kind of, talking to him and kind of confiding in him almost around obviously what he was going through at the time about his injury and how bad it made him feel, and he was a bit depressed and stuff like that, and how his wife was the one to kind of help him out of it. And Shawn was very sympathetic, saying he went through a very similar thing and his wife was great as well, blah blah blah. Shared this lovely moment, he thought, and he was like, what, I've always been a Bret guy, but I actually quite like Shawn after that. And then literally he said, minutes later, it was on the Raw 25th anniversary special, and their job that night was to go out and be basically made a fool of by DX. And he said literally 5 minutes later he walked over and heard Shawn Michaels taking the piss out of him to all his friends about what he just talked to him about, what he confided in him about. So he basically just said
Shawn is a cunt.
Exactly. So he just basically said he always knew
Hang on,
he was a Bret guy.
This is Shawn who found Christianity, yeah?
Yeah, that guy. Yeah, the whole changed person. Except this wasn't that long ago.
Very Christian of him.
Yeah. So yeah, I just thought it was a funny thing because obviously me being a Bret guy as opposed to a Shawn guy, I'm just like, yeah, he's so gone up in my estimations, Dax, and I'm glad he exposed him for what a prick he is. But there you go. Anyway, all that aside, I would love to see Bret the Hitman Hart in AEW. Obviously, CM Punk recently got very emotional as well, didn't he? Talking about Bret, saying Bret should have had all the Saudi money and stuff. He's the one who fucking made this business, not the likes of Goldberg. So
yeah. And Goldberg just ended his career, which is good of him.
Exactly.
I mean, to be fair, we've seen the love, subtly that Punk has for Bret in his matches because he's paid homage to him once now, hasn't he? So
certainly has.
Like you say, he's got a huge fan in Punk there as well.
Exactly. So I imagine the door is wide open if Bret wants to go there, but at the moment seems mainly speculation. But let's see. I'd love it personally. But
I think AEW could do with a little more heart.
That it could.
Anyway, Carl, next one. And this is just sort of, I felt it necessary to bring this one in because we sort of talked about this last week, so it just it was interesting that Big E sort of tweeted out because it sort of explained a bit of what we were talking about last week, and that was Big E as well. He's been sort of updating regularly since his injury, but he mentioned one quite recently where he had his first doctor's appointment since the accident, and he's basically pointed out that he learned that because of the C1 fracture, he narrowly escaped a stroke, paralysis, or death, and he found it very sobering, and that he stated in his tweet that life feels even more precious and valuable now. So I thought it's worth a mention because firstly we were talking about this I don't like to be speculative. I hope. I wish him a speedy recovery. He's been very lucky. Can't wait to see him back. But we mentioned last week about the C1 being I think that they've referred to it as the Atlas vertebrae because it sort of holds up a lot. It has a big job basically, and that it's a really difficult one to injure and to recover from. So again, I don't want to be negative about it because he's doing fantastic, but it just sort of it elaborates on that, and obviously Big E appreciating how lucky he's been there as well. So again, it's great. I think it's great that he's taking it the way he is as well. He's not being negative about it. He's sort of keeping everyone up to date, keeping positive. I mean, it's the power of positivity, isn't it? I suppose. But yeah, I just thought I'll give a slight update on that because we were talking about the injury last week, and I find it interesting that like they've sort of pointed out just how lucky he was with the C, obviously the C1 and the C6, but they mentioned the C1 being the one where he's sort of narrowly escaped stroke, paralysis, or death, which is a fucking scary thing to be told. That really.
Yeah, but definitely. God, he's ended up so lucky off the back of it. It just goes to show that one minor, it ain't ballet, as they say. Like one minor thing can go horribly wrong. So I'm glad that obviously none of that stuff did happen, of course, and I just really hope that he does make a speedy recovery because obviously everybody loves the guy. There's an outpouring of support for him, so I'd love it if he can make it back to the ring and pick up where he left off. But yeah, God, scary times, and so fortunate that it didn't end up going that way. Imagine if he was like having a seizure or something on the middle of SmackDown, like insane.
Unreal, isn't it? But I love that the positivity stayed with that. Like he's rather than being sort of negative about it, and it is a scary thing to learn, but it's like first instinct is he's realised how precious life is and how lucky he is, which is it's definitely the right mentality as well.
Exactly. So yeah, speedy recovery again to Big E. The next one to talk about, Anthony, Brandi Rhodes. Now, I'm a big fan. I think you've seen a couple episodes as well of her YouTube show, Shot of Brandi. I think always really enjoyable. Basically, just gets absolutely wasted, and so do her guests, or the wrestlers that she brings on, and they just make some food and shit. So really entertaining, just chill out TV. Well, Brandi Rhodes has partnered with DIGA or Dija Studios, who are known for producing the likes of Scream and Teen Wolf, in the hopes of taking that YouTube show to TV. Now, it apparently goes on to say here that they are looking to turn the show where Rhodes cooks and chats with celebrities and wrestlers into a 30-minute TV series, and currently Dija is shopping the project to broadcasters and streamers to try and get a deal. So I think that would be awesome, to be fair. Whether I know it started out as just her YouTube channel, and then I think it ended up moving under the AEW umbrella, but obviously now that her and Cody have left, it makes sense for her to obviously try and grow that where she can. So, but
she needs to keep that theme music though.
Oh yeah,
I don't want a TV deal to get rid of the theme music.
That's one of the best parts about it, to be sure. I'm going in, Brady.
It's class. It's just it's so connected to Shot of Brandi now that it'd be a shame if they had to change stuff like that for like licensing reasons and stuff,
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, fingers crossed she does get that deal. Like, I don't know. I don't know what the future holds. Obviously, the stuff around Cody is still very much up in the air. That a lot of the in the knows seem to believe he's definitely WWE bound, contract is signed, all that good stuff. But by all accounts, Brandi isn't signed. So does that mean she's done in the ring? It seemed very clear that she wanted to stay in the ring. So
I don't know how you feel about it. I mean, we know how Brandi feels about it, evidently. I don't know how you feel about it, Carl, but I've always preferred Brandi as a personality rather than a wrestler, in all fairness. Like, I enjoy a Shot of Brandi. She's always been quite good at, like, doing sort of the, like, where been required, like, doing the announcing or a bit of interviewing and stuff like that. I've always preferred her as a personality rather than an actual in-ring competitor. So I'm, for me, I'm like, yeah, more of this. Nice.
Yeah, I mean, to be fair, Shot of Brandi's a fantastic show. I think, obviously, when I was watching Rhodes to the Top, she was very clear. Whether it was just the fact that she had just become a mum and wanted to kind of, get back to her kind of former physique and former, capabilities or whatever. She was very clear that she wanted to get back on the ring and wanted to go after the title. And obviously, they didn't renew with AEW, so yeah, I don't think WWE have picked her up. So I don't know where she would be able to, actually make that happen.
Wherever the hell she wants.
Maybe Ring of Honor. But yeah,
hey, talk about it.
So yeah, but hopefully she just get the show on TV, shot of Brandi, and yeah, I'm going to try and watch a few more episodes of it as well because I haven't watched it in a while, and it is a fun show for all.
Curious, by the way, what happened? What's the deal with Arn?
Is
Arn signed to AEW, or was he just like there because of Cody? And is he gone now too?
I think he is still signed to AEW. Obviously, his son is training, so whether he does stuff with that, he's got Brock Anderson.
Yeah.
He's still there.
No, because obviously all of his work was like managing Cody, so it's just curious.
Yeah, he might just be more of a like an agent or something now. Less kind of on screen, but yeah he definitely seems to have suffered in terms of that on screen persona. But what a shame! We had the whole Glock memes and everything, and
we made a few hundred memes.
With that, we did. Some of the best ones, I'd say. I'm obviously biased, but still.
Yeah, naturally, but they were though. Anyway, next one, Carl. Just an interesting one on Paige VanZant. VanZant, am I saying that right? I feel like I'm saying that right.
Yeah, VanZant.
Yeah. So she's quite recently been on Sirius XM's Throwing Down with Renee and Misha. Now, not a show I've particularly listened to, but this, Carl, it might be a good place to start, in all fairness. She's been interviewed. She's been talking about her career in MMA. She's been talking about the similarities between her MMA training and her recent training with Gangrel. And she's sort of talked about how basically she was always kind of headed towards wrestling, but didn't really know whether it was going to be WWE or AEW. The most notable part that I want to talk about here, but I would encourage you to listen to the entire interview, is that she was saying that she did actually go to WWE headquarters. She met with them, but they had a very different plan for what they wanted for her as opposed to what she wanted. And she didn't elaborate on that particularly, but she did say with AEW, she's excited that they were happy to partner with her and that I continue to fight MMA, continue to do bare knuckle boxing, and essentially build her career as a wrestler, but still be herself. So it seems as though the issue and why we never got Paige in WWE was the fact that they, and I'm not even trying to come at WWE for this, almost understandably, because it is a bit of a risk. They didn't want her to continue with the MMA and the bare knuckle boxing. That seems to be the suggestion here, which isn't an unreasonable thing. They want to protect their stars. That's an investment, isn't it? And where I'm not again saying that AEW is stupid either. It's a measured risk, and whether you're willing to take it, isn't it? So, thought that's an interesting one, Carl. And I thought, you know what, I'm going to get Carl's thoughts, and this is why it's here.
My thoughts, I concur. I think, WWE would no chance they would let her do bare knuckle boxing. No chance they would let her continue with MMA. It would have been you're exclusively with us, and she wouldn't have had the exposure that she's had already under AEW. They probably would have signed her, put her in developmental, kept her away until she had enough chops to put her out there on TV. So they probably would have done a big announcement, but then she would have kind of faded into obscurity, just doing wrestling training at the Performance Center. Whereas obviously she's her own brand in herself. She's obviously developed a bit of stardom with all the other things that she's been doing, as well as the stuff in the other fight scene. So AEW's let her come in, showed her off, even though she's not a trained professional wrestler yet. But people are already like, oh, okay, Paige VanZant at AEW, she's all elite. I know who she is. I'm looking forward to seeing her get in the ring. So, it's going to be an interesting one to see how she does get used. I think this could be a huge signing for AEW. I don't look at it as like a Ronda Rousey type thing where, and I'm not going to say Paige VanZant is the same stardom as Ronda Rousey, because she isn't, but she's not that far behind, to be fair. And I think the difference is Paige VanZant actually wants this, whereas Ronda clearly does not fucking want this. So
the first time around, she did.
She did, to be fair to her. Yeah. But now she doesn't want this on the second run, so we'll see. But I think it's a really positive thing. The fact that it's clear that we wanted Paige VanZant as well. They were very vocal about that, and they just wouldn't obviously by all accounts, let her do the things that she wanted to do as well. So interesting. It's like interesting to think, isn't it, that they don't see themselves as competition necessarily, but they're both after the same crop of talent, and they've got all that kind of thing. So it's an interesting one. Which leads us to the final piece of news this week, Anthony. Kind of bookending this show with is Moxley going to WWE again? Is Matt Cardona open to going to WWE again?
I don't know. You mentioned Cody signing with WWE. Suddenly
everybody does it. It's just a cool thing to do. Everybody wants a bit of Cody Rhodes, don't they? So, but Matt Cardona recently interviewed on Cultaholic's Straight to Hell YouTube series, and he was asked about his thoughts on a future return to WWE, Anthony, and he said, "If Vince McMahon called me, or Bruce Pritchard, or John Laurinaitis, of course I would pick up. Of course I would have a conversation. Why wouldn't I? I'd be lying right now if I said I never want to wrestle at Madison Square Garden, or I never want to wrestle at WrestleMania again. Anybody who says this is fucking lying, quite frankly. But I'm not doing what I'm doing now, hoping to get back. I don't do what I do thinking, oh man, what have I got to do to get back to WWE? Or, what do I have to do to get AEW to look at me? No, I'm doing me. If these opportunities present themselves, great. But the state of pro wrestling's on fire right now. You don't need to be in those two companies, and I'm trying to prove that you don't need it." And fair play to the guy. He fucking is.
Yeah, he's doing a stellar job of proving that, actually. Yeah.
Well, exactly. No one has. I don't think anybody who's been released by WWE has gone on to kind of do the type of stuff that Cardona's done. Really, he's literally been everywhere. He's GCW champion, NWA champion. He was in AEW for a bit.
And you know what? No one has managed to tour the indies like he has and keep the notoriety, because he seems he's constantly in wrestling media, which a lot of the time you don't get from the indie stuff. People go for the big promotions, but Cardona's kept his sort of fame, if you will, as well, which is fascinating.
Well, that's it. He's he's constantly made the news, hasn't he, with the shenanigans he's been doing, and I think he's got a lot of praise for the way he's kind of developed this character now, like the King of the Deathmatch or whatever, but like in a super way that he's been doing it. So fair play to him, and I think he's right as well. I think for a lot of people, and I'm not saying like people who are contracted to AEW right now, like if Vince called them up and went, "Do you want to be at WrestleMania?" they'd all go, "Yeah," but like I think people who haven't burnt their bridges with the company and who are looking, or coming to the end of the deals or stuff like that, or are slightly less tied down, if Vince came up to them and was like, "Do you want to come back? Do you want to be at Mania?" A lot of them probably would, because let's be honest, they grew up watching WWE. Majority of us did. So no matter how good the product is now, still WWE. And that's why we've always said, like, when it goes through a patch, like I'd probably say WWE is in a pretty bad patch now. It's probably in one of the worst patches it's been in a while, I would say, in terms of the product, in terms of how enjoyable it is. But we're not going to stop watching the Royal Rumble or WrestleMania because it's what we do.
No. It's a funny thing, like, you don't want WWE to go anywhere.
No.
Like, we moan about things we don't like, but we do that. We would do that with any show, in all fairness. And it's part of what we do on here, isn't it? We talk about the good and we talk about the bad. And like you say, just because it's a bad patch right now doesn't mean you want anything other than WWE being great again.
No, exactly. You just I think that's all anybody wants, is for pro wrestling as a whole to be as mainstream and as big and popular as it was in the heyday, in the glory days, whether that's the old school 80s,
back in my day,
whether it's the Attitude Era times, like when wrestling was white hot. That's what it'd be great if we could get back to, because it was super enjoyable, and hopefully it's peaks and troughs in it throughout the whole industry, and I think there's a lot of stuff that is going well now, especially for other companies. WWE is still having record years, but it's just more getting the enjoyability back of it all. But fair play to Cardona, just being honest. He's like, yeah, definitely would go back, but I'm not, hanging by the phone waiting for them to call me. I'm just doing my thing. If they want me back, then I'll listen. So,
yeah. I think that's a really solid approach as well. Like, you can see like people's journeys back to WWE, like Drew McIntyre being a good example of that. But I think for that to be the aim is not the best way to go about it, is it? Like, to let it happen organically is definitely the right way. If he finds his way back there, that's awesome. And it would feel like that similar story to Drew. But I love the fact that he's not like, that's not his aim. He's just doing what, to quote him, he's just doing him.
Exactly.
Someone's got to do him.
Well, yeah. Chelsea Green. So that be the news. That be the news this week.
The news.
So yeah, very intriguing in terms of people going back to WWE, people potentially going to AEW. A lot of stuff going on. I think rumor mill around Mania season does tend to heat up and go a bit more speculative, doesn't it? Yeah.
Certainly does.
All
like that
remains...
wild rumor that Cody Rhodes is going to fight Seth Rollins for some reason.
Just keep going back to it, don't you?
Not letting it go, man.
It is going to be
not
interesting.
Let it go, so people admit that it's just, other than the shock value, it's actually just kind of like, oh, okay, as a match.
Shock over substance is what that is, right there.
That's another T-shirt right there.
That's another T-shirt. Can churning them out today, aren't we? But yeah, thank you for listening to the Ringside Report. Let us know what your thoughts are on all these stories. Comment below on YouTube, or let us know on Instagram or anywhere else. If you're listening to this, obviously check us out on YouTube, see our beautiful faces. If you're watching this, need to drive somewhere, need to, haven't got access to a screen, listen to us as well. Our soothing, beautiful voices can still be there. And I think that, it's only right to talk about the upcoming For the Love of Wrestling convention, Anthony. So before we leave you, we'll pass you over to this little message about For the Love of Wrestling 2, which is coming up 23rd and 24th of April this year.
For Love of Wrestling, Europe's largest wrestling convention, returns to the Exhibition Centre in Liverpool on the 23rd and 24th of April. Guests this year include Diva of the Decade, Trish Stratus, the Wrestling God, JBL, the Dudley Boys, Torrie Wilson, and just announced MJF from AEW. We will also be doing a Wyatt family reunion as we welcome Eric Rowan, the man formerly known as Braun Strowman, and indeed the Fiend Bray Wyatt. Also just announced is the man, the legend, the icon, Sting, and of course your Olympic gold medalist Kurt Angle. This and many, many, many more guests, as well as prop builds, Q&As with all of the wrestlers, and some of the biggest wrestling collections in the world on display from our exhibitors. Get your tickets at forloveofwrestling.co.uk or search Facebook or Twitter for the Love of Wrestling. For the Love of Wrestling, Europe's biggest wrestling convention, returns to Liverpool the 23rd and the 24th of April.
Hey guys, it's Georgia Smith here, and you've heard me on A2theK. These guys are awesome. Check it out. A2theK.
A2theK.